behalf of Palanpur Samaj Kendra and Palanpur Online, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you, especially to our panelists, two of them who have come from out of town. Ganesh has flown in from Bangalore and Mithun has flown in from Chennai. We thank you for that and being available with us on a Sunday morning. It was, I think, in March of this year when Economic Times carried a front page story which said Flipkart, the India's largest e-tailer, had crossed a sales of $1 billion, or about 6,000 crores. Compare this to Trent. Trent is the retail operations of Tatas in India, which run the West Side stores, the hypermarket in name of Star Bazaar, and the bookstore called Landmark. Trent does 1,200 crores in a year. They did 1,200 crores in FY14. Flipkart did over 6,000 crores. Trent is a 16-year-old company. Flipkart is 7 years old. Trent's market capitalization is 700 million and Flipkart's is estimated to be $2 or $2.5 billion. And at 700, Trent has the largest market capitalization of any retailer in India. As if this was not enough, it was around the same time that WhatsApp was bought by Flipkart at a whooping $19 billion. Was bought over by Facebook at $19 billion. The revenue was 20 million. The staff strength was 55. 55 people working, and the company was bought for 19 billion. Still, this is not enough, and we are hearing that Alibaba, the company that owns the largest e-commerce sites in China, is talking about a valuation of 150 to 200 billion dollars. Compare this to Tata's. Tata's is a 150-year-old conglomerate with 30 listed companies, and the market capitalization is 100. Against $100 billion of Tata, this 15-year-old company is talking about market capitalization of 150 to 200 billion dollars and raising 20 billion, around 20 billion dollars, which would be, if it happens, the world's largest IPO in world's history. There are enormous transformations happening, and the obvious question is, how does it impact me? Impact, certainly it does. Look at the way music was sold. If you wanted to listen to Lata Mangeshkar 20 years back, you walked into a rhythm house and bought an audio cassette or a CD. And today, I believe 40 to 50% of music is sold online today. Apart from that, look at what's happening to newspapers. Newspapers, which was considered to be one of the most sacred and sort of most enviable business to be in, is facing challenges, and the subscriptions or the readerships are dwindling. New York Times is facing challenge. Look at what's happening to magazines. Time and Newsweek were considered to be the best sort of American news magazines. Newsweek, after publishing for 80 years, closed down its print media and is now only available online. Most of us buy tickets, airline tickets now online. My wife is a film buff, and I don't remember last 2-3 years I have bought film tickets going to Inox or PVR, and we buy online. So there is enormous change that is happening in the place. And the question is that how does this impact us? A lot of us are in diamonds and jewelry business, and we've seen what RepNet has done. On one hand, RepNet has brought enormous transparency in terms of pricing, and on the other hand, it has made the whole world open to us and opened lot of customers to us. So there is change happening there. Blue Nile, the largest e-tailer in diamonds and jewelry in US is expected to do about 500 million this year, and could be one of the largest retailers in the US. So there are lots of changes happening. The critics would argue that would that experience, the personal experience, would it not be important? Is it not important that that whole experience of shopping would keep the normal brick and mortar showrooms alive? Don't know. There are questions like, in a country like India, is the penetration of credit card that large? Do we have confidence in paying money through online transactions? Is the penetration of internet that strong that the kind of valuations that we are seeing, the kind of numbers that we are seeing are going to happen? So there are these various questions. What is e-commerce? Is this sustainable? Is it going to last? Is it going to change the way we do business? Is it going to impact my business? So to answer some of these questions, we have a very distinguished panel here. We have a combination of people who are very savvy investors. Country is one of the best investors, and we have people who have used internet to build a business model, and country is one of the best brands and one of the best, most successful people are here to discuss this. I would now call upon Paula to moderate. Paula is a very, very close friend. We went to school together. After doing schooling at New Era, she went to St. Xavier's and then went on to do her master's at Stanford University in the US. She's executive director of Seed Fund. They invest typically in startup companies. She's worked with over 20 technological companies in the US and India, and very closely works with startups. And we thought that she would be best here to explain to us as to what is this impact, what is e-commerce all about, and how does it impact us. So I'll ask Paula to take over and set the context and moderate. Thank you.
So this. Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Ashish. It's a pleasure to be here. And when Ashish asked me to come for this session, and he told me it's on a Sunday morning, and you have to talk about e-commerce and all this new stuff that we don't understand. I said that's fair enough, but Sunday morning, really, people want to know about this stuff. I didn't really think it was that cool, but obviously everybody's here. And we hope we can shed some light on what's happening in this exciting space. So Ashish put a very apt question, when we were discussing this, that we know we are all using this, and e-commerce is there. We keep hearing about it, but what lies beneath? I mean, is it really what it is, or what it is projected to be, or is it all just some spin doctor selling all these stories? And I said, yes, it's kind of hard to understand, but let's try and answer this question. And the question that I put to myself is, why would people come on a Sunday morning, the community that I know well through my schooling days and through my various friends in South Bombay, to sort of discuss this topic? And so I tried to answer that question, and I started looking around, and I found some interesting stories which I'm going to use to sort of address why this is of interest across sectors, across geographies, across cultures even. Ashish mentioned about the Chinese giant Alibaba and our own Flipkart and so on. So let's take a little deeper look into this. Before I start, I have been asked to request everybody to put off their mobiles. So with that, we can start. So the title, again, is Beyond E-commerce, and with the focus on traditional businesses. So let us see how e-commerce, beyond just the shopping that we do, how that is going to impact the ecosystem around various businesses. And I want to start to put this in context with a story from most of us would be familiar with this map of this town called Kapadvanj, a town of about 30 to 50,000 people, just off the highway near Ahmedabad. And there is a boy there called Rikin Shah. He's about 25 years old today. If you went to the town 25 years ago, it was a dusty town with bylanes and some unorganized retail. Over the last 10 years, not much has changed. Population has grown somewhat. Some people have moved away. But the town pretty much looks the same. There is more DTH, so they can have access to new movies. Mobile phones are there. There were PCOs, which are now replaced with all these kind of shops. And Rikin Shah's family has prospered. He's become an engineer, but he still lives there. And he's a web designer. He is aspirational. He has seen the world outside Kapadvanj town and his parents and his immediate family and community. And he wants latest devices. He wants access to what his other friends in Ahmedabad have. But he's working out of here. So he today has all these devices worth maybe 2 to 5 lakhs. He's bought them in less than a year. And what he's done is gone to various sites and he's had them delivered at home. He's particularly proud of his digital SLR camera, and I found this as a story on a photography website where he has used his digital camera to put up his own website because he's a photography buff. And he uses all these devices to fuel this passion, as well as he's brought his family up to speed and so on. So this is really happening beyond what you and I are talking about, buying movie tickets, ordering pizza. And if I were to project his story, maybe he'll continue to order clothes at Myntra. Maybe he'll find his mate from Shadi.com. He'll search for his aspirational car from Carwale. And instead of going with his parents in the bylanes to buy gold jewelry, maybe he'll buy something of his own choice from Carrot Lane. So in Kapadvanj, small town, not glamorous, but all the glamour that we can get, he can get as well. So this is how it is changing across different cultures, different economies, and this is really now an interesting story. So online world is into our homes. If you look at any urban home, we can find everything around us that we could have ordered from any of these websites, and these are all websites in India. We can relate to these entrepreneurs. We read about them. We see hoardings all over the city with all these, which we didn't see 2 years ago. So these are all becoming brands in our own minds. And of course, we all can't ignore what comes in Eco Times every day. This one is valued at this one. There are huge revenues, but there are huge losses. But there is a story there because everybody, Ashish talked about the Flipkart Myntra deal, and look at the valuations. And how does this really happen? Yes, people are buying, maybe in small towns, big towns, but really 15,000 crores, what does it really mean? And Flipkart Myntra is not the only one. There is Snapdeal, which is also inching towards a large revenue, but still has a handsome loss and even more handsome valuation. So, as simple business people, most people are just trying to figure out the math here. Is there any logic here, or is it emotion? Is it sentiment, or is it just fluff? So there are some questions that we can at least come up with and see if we can find some answers. So behind this e-commerce, what's really going on? What is actually driving this? Let's just understand what this buzzword is, this e-commerce that we talk about. Actually, it's just a business, right? It's a traditional commerce, it's traditional business, but it is enabled by a technology interruption. So your business remains the same, you're still manufacturing something, you're still selling. As a buyer, I'm still buying maybe the same thing, But the way I'm doing it, the way I'm able to make a business decision to how to sell and a buying decision as a consumer, that has been completely disrupted by this technology. So earlier I would go check out 5 stores, go to Chroma, go to the Sony showroom, whatever, and talk to 5 people and say, what have you bought? When did you buy? How's the service? I don't need to do that anymore. I'm able to make my own decisions with my own research. And it's become more and more easy to do that. As a buyer, as a seller, I'm also able to help the consumer make the decision and draw him to me. So that in essence is e-commerce. It's really you are using technology in some format to really drive the business a little bit differently. Just quickly to say what types of e-commerce businesses are there. There is something called business to business. There is business to consumer and there is consumer to consumer. Even in business to consumer, we have online services like a Shadi or a Naukri or some financial services, education, real estate. These are specific services that help you make your decisions and actually you are transacting but you're not necessarily buying a goods or product. And then there is B2C retail where you're actually buying physical goods and you're doing it online. And again, there are various ways in which you are going and doing the transaction, but in the end you are buying something and you're paying online or cash on delivery, but the transaction is completed online. Just coming back to B2B, and I think it's relevant here, particularly in this audience of business people. B2B businesses started earlier on. I think most of you are familiar with RapNet, if I'm not mistaken, is the B2B portal for the diamond business. There are several others which are, like Alibaba or India Mart, which may not be industry specific, but they're still a marketplace for connecting businesses to businesses. And there are several, I think every category of business now has a B2B portal where businesses can connect with other businesses. So again, you are kind of replacing a lot of the physical infrastructure using technology, and that has added a lot of efficiencies across sectors. There is also something called consumer to consumer, and we all see ads of OLX and Quicker and so on. So if I want to sell my laptop, I can just put it there, and you were looking for a second-hand laptop, you can come and buy some, connecting with you as a consumer. And this is again, something that was happening in the informal way, that I would find somebody to buy a second-hand thing or go to buy a second-hand book and so on. That is again been enabled in a much more organized way. What is the real challenge here? Whether you can really trust what's happening in all the cases. But the big thing is that you have a wider choice and you have a lot of data to help you make these decisions. I want to just step back and from where we are and see actually when did this all start. It's actually a pretty recent phenomenon. I think there may be people in the audience who were not born before the internet actually came to us in India. The World Wide Web came to us in 1995. Initially there were B2B portals, this spurred off some more innovation here, and I think we have Anupam here. I think Shadi.com was one of the first ones which came into India, I think in 1996. The job portal Naukri came, and the travel industry really took to this. So that was what I call the first phase of the online penetration into India, and it's not really that long ago. It's 19 years ago. Then a lot of stuff started happening around 99, 2000. A bunch of sort of as we call dot-coms were there, but it didn't work that time. They didn't get this kind of valuation, didn't create this kind of, there was a buzz, but it didn't create these kind of stories that we could tell today. And primarily it was because of, it wasn't that the innovation was wrong. It was, I think, the timing was different. There was different infrastructure issues. The telecom revolution had just started in India. It was still the time of, if you remember, cyber cafes and PCOs and calls, those things which were just coming up in small towns. Very low computer penetration, very low internet penetration, lack of other infrastructure. Payments online were just not happening. So, it just fell off. So we kind of forgot about it. till it all started building up. I think the mobile penetration, the computer penetration, the PC penetration, the internet penetration, building up of backbones, technologies evolved. So that was the right stage for the second wave, as we call it, around 2006-2008 frame. And lots of other innovations started happening. People recognized what the issues were in markets like us. What is a consumer looking for? How do you service a diverse customer base like ours? And this coupled with the big burst of social networking, smartphones, tablets, just seemed to have the right ingredients, for a good recipe for e-commerce to take off. And since 2010, you've seen a really sharp increase in all this. If you look at the India story, I mean, why is now India suddenly on the map for this? We still have pretty minuscule numbers. In 2011, where I'm just taking the midpoint between where we are and the second wave in 2008, we are still a very large population, but with a very low internet penetration, which is really sub 10%. And people question this, right? Because what does it actually mean? We should actually be talking of how many are really using internet for transacting or for doing really meaningful stuff, and those numbers vary. So and if you come down to then online shopping and e-commerce, e-tailing, and as we call it, it's still very, very low. It's in 1% or below, depending on who you talk to. But the point is that even with these penetrations, we still have large enough numbers, because we are talking of a large population, particularly a large youth population. And this growth, because of penetration of mobiles and internet, and the penetration of and the increasing number of youth, is really growing much faster than it did in the initial years from 2000 to 2006 and 2006 to 2011. I think we're really on a pretty good growth now. And again, there are lots of numbers you can see. Some of them, like we're saying, what we call computer literate people is crossing $300 million. That's 300 million people, which is more than the US population. The urban and rural are catching up with each other. So it's not all urban anymore. We have rural population catching up. Internet users, real users, are somewhere in the range of 100 million people. Yes, again, there is vernacular people. There are people who really are not so well versed, but they are catching up. The point is, it is very, very aspirational. Everybody wants to understand this and get onto it and use it. And why do they want to do that? It is not just because the next person is using it. I think there is something to it. I think there is a great kick. If you're sitting, like I said, the story of the guy in Kapadwanj. I think one of the portals launched on the railway site, IRCTC, which is incidentally one of the largest sites in the world for buying train tickets. And they partnered with them to have access to e-commerce from their site. And the first order they got was from a Naxal area in West Bengal. And, because it is just, this guy out there can see it on TV, he sees the ads, he wants that. And, where is he going to go? He has to go to Calcutta and make the big trip. And while he was on the train, he sees this and says, let me learn how to do it. Once he's done it once, he has an experience, he wants to know more, he wants to get on. So next thing, he's going to try and see how he can be an internet user, an active internet user. Maybe he'll get a smarter phone. So this is what is driving these numbers. And yes, we all doubt these numbers. We're not sure really how do you hold on to these people. How does it really justify saying, all these people are going to come and shop. But you can see it. I think you can see it across segments and across geographies in the country. All the reports from McKinsey to Forrester to all the international reports are giving large numbers, that it's supposed to be one of the fastest growing e-commerce markets in our region. Of course, China is ahead, and we'll come to that. But despite everything, we are really growing in this segment as a country, as a market. So again, just to talk about the growth, we are inching towards $8 billion e-tailing market in 2015-16 time frame. But the important data here is to see that the number of online shoppers will actually double. Likely the average price, that average money that they spend online is going to also increase, and all this is giving you this big number of, few thousand crores. But if you look at the total market, retail market, we're still, it's a still very small percentage of the total retail market. When we talk of retail market, we are talking of fragmented chota-mota dealers, small businesses. Now we also have a big organized retail market, lot of brands, lot of showrooms, lot of malls. Even that is a small percentage. But again, that is growing. And if you see online, it is really very, very small. So can we say that, if you look at this pie of retail as such, we are very small as in e-commerce for shopping is concerned. So there is a lot of headroom to grow, and this is the growth that is promised by this kind of a pie chart is what is driving, I think, and we'll come to that in the panel discussion. Maybe that's one of the things that is exciting investors, exciting companies, entrepreneurs to get more, look at this more seriously. If you look at just what is selling, I mean, mobile phones, everybody knows, is selling like crazy in India. So 250 million mobile phones total, of which online sales is 2%, and this is one of the largest segments online. If you look at jewelry, and again, I'm sure there are people here who may correct me, but this is the data I have got. So, we are at 0.2% online sales at the moment. Books, we all know Flipkart, on Sundays usually I would meet Ashish at Crossword and we'd be flipping through books. Not anymore, because we just talk about books and then order our own stuff on Flipkart. So books are, 600 million books sold online as per the data. And, even though it's a very large segment, it's still only 7%. Fashion and footwear, which is again selling like hotcakes online, still a minuscule percentage of the total retail sales. So there is huge potential for all these people to increase their markets by going online. We are still in this world. We are still in this very, very fragmented world. Can all these people improve their businesses, increase their penetration, improve the way they do business by getting online? So as I've been talking, basically why online retail in India is for all these reasons: accessibility, choice, convenience, yes, better pricing. We are always looking for a good deal, and they are dishing it out to us. Most e-commerce sites are giving us good pricing and good discounts, and we'll come to that again in the panel discussion as to why this is happening and is it sustainable. And the main thing is this huge middle class aspirational demand coming from consumers in tier 3, tier 4 cities, a large youth population, and all the other infrastructure issues that we talked about, including Facebook and smartphones. So stage is really set for India to become the giant that we keep hearing about China. Smartphone users, internet users, number of, I think the key number here, which is different than most countries, is number of people below the age of 35 by 2015 is humongous. And, we can all see that they are going to drive the fate of this country. So it's really the favored demographics is my pet reason that we should bet on this sector. If you see the various trends, again, there are various reports. It's a small towns, tier 1, tier 2, are catching up. The tier 3, tier 4 are catching up with the urban population. The Gen X, Gen Y generation, the numbers are really, really staggering. And this came in Times of India this week, that 7 out of 10 urban teens shop online, and most of them own mobiles, smartphones. And this, as they get into a more paying stage, imagine when they are 24, right now they're under 19. They're not going to change. They're not going to go shopping like you and I do. So we are still always, like in every sector, we are compared with China, our big neighbor, and yes, we are still minuscule compared to them. We are 1/3 the population of China, but our internet users, we are much lower. Our retail industry, we are much lower. What is different is, look at the population in the age group below 35. That's where we are higher. And can we then predict that what has happened in China so thus far will happen here and we'll reach those numbers? I think we are getting there. Again, if you compare with the other countries, there is a lot of headroom for us to catch up. We are still, we are just barely making the charts. But I think the rate at which we are going, we should be able to get there. So I've talked about why we should buy online. Let's think from the seller's point of view. The buyer wants all these reasons to buy online. He wants great access and lots of choice and pricing. He's able to compare. He needs all this to make drive his decision, convenience, and so on. But I'm a seller, so why should I sell online? Does it really do anything for me? Okay, you're talking about access, so okay, I'm able to reach the guy in Jharkhand or the guy in Kapadganj or wherever. Do I really want to sell? Do I have wares to sell to him? What's going to be the cost? So let's understand our own product and see whether I really need to sell online. But it is tempting, right, to get a larger market without doing much. The other big reason to sell online, I can be shoulders head to head with a much larger company. I don't need to have a footprint across the country. I don't need to necessarily have investment the way he needs to have in putting a brick and mortar structures. Managing of inventory can be done differently. So without a physical presence in every street corner, I can still rub shoulders with a very large competitor. And that will maybe pivot my own business. So this is why most people are thinking of selling online. And again, we have to understand what is it that we can sell. So everything possibly cannot go online. But let us look at what is selling. Fashion and accessories, shoes, bags, all this jewelry, fashion jewelry, electronics, beauty and personal care, and yes, even precious jewelry. This is all selling primarily as if it is sort of branded. Generic products like books, a lot of health-related products, baby products, and a whole lot of other generic stuff. And then, like I spoke about earlier, there are some of these sort of assisting you in making your transactional services like jobs, matrimonial, real estate, finance, automobile. So, a whole lot of stuff is selling. And the kind of products which are selling, one needs to really apply our mind and see whether your product and your segment fits into some of the reasons why these people are doing well online. And again, if you see the mix, it is largely led by fashion and electronics so far. Jewelry is there as a small percentage as a gross merchant value, but again, it is a sector which is growing. Home decor is another sector which is growing. Some of it is because one of the data that we've seen is that women are very instrumental now in making online shopping decisions. So clearly jewelry will sell more. And in terms of what is selling in jewelry, it's gold coins, solitaire rings, and so on. And we can have Mithun talk, touch upon this, what is selling in jewelry segment and why. I pulled out some data, but I have to admit that when I spoke to Mithun here, I was embarrassed because I think some of this data is probably not correct. He said that much higher value items, single items are being sold. So these are not things to show off anymore. And I'm happy to say that these are actually, they have overtaken some of the data, industry data that was even projected. Now I want to share one important piece of data with you. When you know something is working, when a really sharp business community gets active. And during Diwali season, Ahmedabad topped every Bangalore and other more internet-friendly cities to become the number 3 city for sale during for online sales during the holiday season. So when Ahmedabadis say that this is the best way to shop, there must be something in there. Probably they found the right deals. They found that we'll save on fuel cost, sort of pollution. I'm getting better choices. I'll avoid the crowds. I can watch my match and do this, whatever. But and this, of course, after the holiday season, they dropped down. So we can see that clearly they're focused, and there is really hope in this segment. Now, of course, all that glitters is not necessarily gold. We have lots of challenges in this industry, particularly in our country. And as we all know, as business people, every segment in this country is challenging. Here we are able to quantify some of them. We talked about the low internet penetration, which is poor knowledge and awareness of really what this is about. So a bit of a fear of the unknown, the trust factor, the touch and feel. We are used to interacting with people. We are used to touching things that we buy. We're not able to. We have a fear. What is he really going to sell me? As a seller, there are huge challenges. You have to deliver to these, geographies that you want to reach to. But do we have the infrastructure for that? Logistics and shipment. How do we get all these people to integrate with us and make sure that delivery is done safely, my product is safe, I get the money. We have very low penetration of credit card usage, particularly online. So a lot of our stuff is driven by cash on delivery. Again, we'll touch upon it in the panel. Collecting cash is a huge issue. Bringing it back is another issue. And people saying, I really don't want this, take it back. So the returns are a big, big issue. In addition to that, there is a whole infrastructure of our online infrastructure not being so robust, online security being a big issue, and of course, like again in every other sector, tax issues and regulatory issues, they drive us bananas. So, this is, when you put it all together, we are not really the most friendly place, to say that e-commerce is going to go gung-ho. We are right down there, in terms of why, what is stopping the growth. We have a lot of infrastructure and regulatory issues besides the other issues that e-commerce faces in general in other geographies. The thing is, we talked about giving great service and, having a good customer experience, but what does it cost to do this? What does it cost for a seller to get a customer to the thing that he's trying to sell? How do customers come? You're doing an online search, most likely, and you're searching, say, for a ring. And actually, you'll go to the page in the site where he's selling the ring. And maybe, as a seller, you really want to promote your pendants. So you really don't have, as a seller, the opportunity to push the customer as much as the customer, is coming more by the pull that he has. And all this, to make sure that you get the right customer, to get him to buy the thing that you want him to buy, all that requires what is called online marketing. In addition, you need to do offline marketing to make sure your brand is built. So there is this huge marketing cost. And now, like I mentioned at the beginning, you're seeing all these billboards. All our football matches are interrupted by all these, OLX and so on, which come up all the time. So they're spending a lot of money in building the brand and in getting the customer. You want to give a good user experience, you have to invest in it. You can't just put up, static photos and expect the customer to buy. The customer is also spoiled by international websites, so you have to come up to that level. And then there's this huge cost of fulfillment, logistics, delivery. We talked about returns and inventory management, payment. These are costs that one has to be aware of. And while you're selling online, you have to understand your competition is not just your next door shopkeeper, it's international. You need to understand all the techniques of doing stuff digitally and differentiating your business without really having face-to-face with the customer. And use technology to your advantage and maybe figure out in your niche market how do you tie it all in together. What is some of the new things which are happening? In India, we are seeing a lot of hybrid models, brick and mortar plus online. Some malls have got online now. So City Walk Mall in Delhi has started an online thing, so you can shop online and pick it up, or you can see in the shop and pick it up at home. So it's a completely hybrid model of brick and mortar plus online. So the point is you can't ignore one or the other. So offline is going online and online is also going offline. Shadi has got offline things, Make My Trip in the travel. Even Myntra, I believe, is starting some offline shops. Maybe some of the jewelers which are online may do offline. I don't know. So these are these going to happen? Are we going to coexist? We'll have to find out. But definitely the hybrid model is kicking off in India. The other trend that we see is, everything is going mobile. I mean, we can't do without our mobile. And everybody has recognized that, and everybody's coming up with mobile apps. And the shopping, actually, M-commerce is actually going to overtake e-commerce, and everybody's going to shop from the smartphones, prices of which are dropping, and apps are coming up. I just saw that Carwale, Mohit is here, is one of the top apps. Just I saw it yesterday. Which helps in buying cars, and it's a fantastic mobile app now. Shadi has a great app. All the websites have got mobile apps that are doing really well. Payments is something where innovation is required, and some of you may already have seen there's something called the Square, which has come up, which is enabling this much easier transacting online. There are lots of other things which are happening in the payment space also, which are enabling better transparency and efficient transactions. So let's come to what it means for this particular community. Is there something that we can do as a jeweler community? Can small merchants get online, and where can that take us? How does this happen? One can get online. There are lots of tools. You don't have to be a tech whiz to get online. You don't have to really understand anything beyond how your business works, what is your product, and what is it that you want to sell. There are lots of companies out there who will help you do this from beginning to end. So you just have to tell them, and they'll put you on different marketplaces, build your storefront. We have a company like that called Brown Tape here, which will enable you to do that. There are several companies which will do that, and you can list your products on multiple sites. You can list it on your site. So this is all right there now, and you don't need to go take a course or be a geek to get online. So plenty of opportunities. It's up to us to figure out where do we go from here. Of course, keeping the caveats in mind that there are challenges, and that's what probably makes it somewhat interesting.